Nintendo has officially announced pretty much everything that is coming to the Nintendo Switch 2 at launch. The hype is real for many, but for people especially not living in Nintendo's ecosystem like myself, all I see is a company that is absolutely going to be skinning their fans' wallets alive if they buy into this day one. To put it simply, fellas, Nintendo has completely lost their collective minds with this announcement of their brand new console. I just gotta say it how it is. Look, I bought the Switch when it released, I enjoyed it for what it was, but I haven't played my Switch in years at this point due to how archaically old the hardware is. It's not really Nintendo's fault, it's just that I was always a PlayStation player first anyway, so I just bought into PS5 when it released and then never really looked back. I was sick of the long load times that the Switch had and how limited the console was with how I could play my games. But now comes the lazily named Switch 2. I mean, the Switcheroo name was right there, Nintendo, but I guess we can't have nice things. But as I watched the announcement for the console and the many games that are already available on other platforms, I kind of just came to the realization that despite the years passing, Nintendo really hasn't learned anything when it comes to treating their customers as anything besides piggy banks that they cut open constantly for profit at this point. Simply put, Nintendo has completely cooked the entire industry for the worse with this announcement of the Switch 2, and let me show you what I mean. Firstly, is the pricing of their games. Nintendo has decided to now price digital and physical copies of the exact same game at different prices going forward. The digital versions of their games will retail at $80 American, if you can believe it. I know, $80 in this economy. Are you kidding me, Nintendo? But it gets worse. The physical versions will be $10 more at $90 American per game. Just to put this into perspective for you, I live in Canada, unfortunately, and if I wanted to buy a game on Nintendo Switch 2, it would cost me $114.54 per game, and by the way, this is before taxes. So in Alberta here, it's a 5% tax, so you can pretty much round out a single digital game from Nintendo costing somewhere close to $120 Canadian for me once it's all said and done. I just cannot justify paying $120 for a digital game that is just the base version of it. I'm not sorry, I can't condone or protect this at all. The only time that I find that it is okay to pay $120 for a digital game is if you're buying the full game at release, but it also comes with the expansion pack and the pre-order bonuses and all that other nonsense. I'm basically talking about buying the deluxe edition of a game. If that's $120, I understand, but the base version, you're crazy. Because at least then the purchase makes more sense to me because obviously you're getting your product, but you're buying into its future and having that all secure too. But the base game being this much is absolutely insane, and anybody protecting Nintendo for this is out of their minds and completely out of touch. This gets worse, of course, once you realize that the physical copies are $90, which then puts Canadians looking at a brand new physical copy of their brand spanking new Nintendo game coming at $128, again, before taxes are even included. This is undefendable, and anybody trying to say that this is okay, you're gonna be part of the problem. I can't believe that I'm living in a world where a video game is going to set me back $130 just because I want it physically. I mean, we all know everything's expensive these days. Just go to the grocery store, I know. Coffee alone in Canada for the normal jar at the grocery store is $17 each, dude. And I usually buy my groceries for the majority of the month at the beginning of the month like many other people do too. Dude, the day before I made this video, I did just that. My bill for the groceries that I bought was $530. And that's for two people, by the way. It's absolutely insane. And no, I didn't buy the entire store either. It's just that things now are insanely expensive. Factor in people having to pay rent or their mortgage, their gas and their car bills, or even public transit if you take that. Not to mention everything else you gotta pay, especially if you have dogs like I do. These things start to add up. And out of all these things, you're being taxed, and then you gotta pay taxes on top of the taxes you earn, which in Canada, you pretty much owe 1/3 of your entire earnings for the entire year in taxes, and every time I gotta pay my taxes, I want to reenact the plot of V for Vendetta pretty much. So when I look at these games costing what they cost, I can't believe it at all. That Nintendo has the hubris to believe that people will want to buy these games for these prices is insane to me. It's an extra crazy considering many of the games coming day one to Switch 2 are mostly just ports of older games. Final Fantasy VII Intergrade is coming to the Switch 2 day one, which is cool, but although we don't know the price of the game yet, I mean, this is Nintendo, guys, come on, they're really going to make players pay $80 American. or well over $100 for a game that is 5 years old and is just being ported to their new console. Nintendo was obviously aware that these prices are absolutely insane across the board, considering in their home country of Japan at least, they are selling a region-locked Japan language-only version of the Switch 2. This region-locked Japan language supporting version of Switch 2 will cost $333 American, comparing that to the $450 American it costs for the Switch 2 that is being sold everywhere else. And you're probably wondering, why is the region-locked version in Japan cheaper? Well, let me tell you why, because the console that is cheaper can only play games in Japanese. This means this region-locked console cannot display the games you play on it in any other language. It is Japanese and Japanese only. So you're probably thinking, wait, what? Yeah, let me keep going here. So you see the base Nintendo Switch that you can buy in, say, America or Canada. Well, yes, be more expensive, because get this, it can display your games and menus and all of that in more than one language. So what is happening here is that Nintendo is charging more for the same console outside of Japan because your console can have its language settings set to English, Japanese, or who knows what else too. How in the holiest of hells is the language settings of a console somehow making it more expensive? Are we kidding ourselves right now? The PlayStation 5 has built-in features so you can just go to the settings right now and set your PS5 to whatever language it supports. Your phone can do this, your computer can do this, your freaking TV can do this, dude. Like, probably your microwave. Does the microwave even have letters on it? I don't know, whatever. Look, the point is that these consoles and everything else has English, French, Japanese, Portuguese, whatever you want pretty much. You just click it in the settings, and then everything automatically translates. Yet the PS5 is also not somehow more or less expensive or lacks the features to give you multiple language options. So what you're seeing here is that Nintendo has the audacity to sell their new console at varying prices because of basic features their previous console already had at launch worldwide. Apparently the reason, according to what I'm reading here, is that Nintendo wanted a cheaper Japan-only version of the console available in their home country because their currency is weaker than it used to be. And because of this, they were likely worried that Japanese players specifically would not buy their new console if the price was set to the international standard. So somehow region locking your console to one country with one language available slashes basically $100 in value from the console day one. Which, let's be real, that is insane. I would understand a cheaper console variant if maybe it had less memory built into it. Or it didn't come with a Pro controller, or maybe it doesn't come with a game or two, but this is literally just the Switch 2, but it lacks basic features these sorts of consoles and appliances have had for years do. And again, anybody defending anything that Nintendo is doing here is a hypocrite straight up, because there's nothing here to defend. There's no morally right rigmarole you're going to find to justify anything that Nintendo is doing here, because they are simply put screwing all of you over and they think that you're all too stupid and loyal to push back against any of this anyways. This also brings me to the other huge issue that Nintendo has also done here, which is that Nintendo has, let's be honest guys, they just opened the gates of oblivion. For years, game companies have been trying to up the pricing of their products little by little, year over year. Sure, people will say, but inflation and all that, which is true, but the reality is that a lot of games that have been getting made or released, even from the West especially, are not really meeting the quality standards of justifying their price increases if you ask me. Video games, if you haven't noticed, have become even more broken than ever before when they release. Just go look at any of the PC releases from any of the big publishers, either this year or even in the last two, and you'll find a myriad of releases that have all been broken or worse at launch. A more recent example that comes to mind is Monster Hunter Wilds, which was basically unplayable on PC at release for many. The last thing we need right now amidst all the agenda pushing and whatever else is a new meta where these games that release broken or are missing content at launch now cost even more as well. Games currently are $70 American, which comes to about $90 Canadian, give or take. This number, to me, it still feels egregious as, again, game companies are asking players to fork almost $100 in Canada alone for a new game. This already ridiculous pricing for video games has caused most people to just opt out of new releases altogether because the asking price is just too much. Look at this article from a few weeks back from PC Gamer, where a new study shows that 92% of PC players are playing older games right now than the newer offerings being released by publishers in the past year alone. This study was done by Newzoo and cataloged over 10,000 different titles available on PC. And they found out that between January and December 2024, that like the article said, over 90% of players were only playing older games that range from a few years old to well over a decade old even. Now, why would they do this? It's simple, of course. Older games are more polished, they have more content because of course their development cycles have long been finished. But beyond this, these older games of course do not adhere to the activism of today's game developers, mostly in the West. But the big reason of course, as we all know, is that the older the game and the longer that it's out, the cheaper it usually becomes, unless you're Nintendo of course. And this is why Steam's summer sales, and even on PlayStation and more, they all sell older games for eye-wateringly cheaper prices and people bite. And if you simply have the patience and the ability to resist FOMO, you can just wait a year or two, get the full game with all expansions and fixes. And everything for just cheaper, and of course have a much better time with the game than someone who would buy it on day one. It's objectively better as a consumer to not buy a game at launch, but of course publishers and studios do not want you thinking this way at all. Because they need you to want to buy their games day one or they will go bust and have layoffs because everything is so damn expensive now. But the reality is that buying and playing older games is both easier and cheaper in the long run, it just is. And you can easily get hundreds of hours of great games for a fraction of say a single Nintendo game at retail right now. This is why what Nintendo is doing annoys me to the high heavens because like I said, they just opened the gates to oblivion by doing this. Because if you remember, before games used to be $60 American despite the inflation, or that's about $80 Canadian, which I personally thought this was a far better price to justify new releases, and it's still a little too much to me. But even back then, studios and companies complained saying, oh, the games are too expensive, enough to cover the cost, they need to be $70. Then everyone in the industry kind of just waited, nobody moved until 2K came out in 2020 and went, hey everybody, NBA 2K21 is going to be $70 regular price now, sorry, but that's what it's going to cost. And then the entire industry went, NBA 2K did what? They did it? Is that true? Alright everybody, all systems go. Green light, go, go, go everybody, raise the price. They did it first. So now the consumer can't blame us, okay? It's not our fault. Look, okay, NBA 2K just forced our hands. What do you want us to do? And then all your games suddenly went up in price by $10, and for what exactly? Did the quality of your game releases increase somehow between 2020 and before? I would argue the majority of the games coming out from 2020 till now have actually been worse in quality overall. Cyberpunk, for example, that launched broken as hell in 2020 for $70. Sure, there were some games that were worth full price like Elden Ring, but the point remained that as soon as one company flipped the switch, suddenly every goddamn Switch in the Switch headquarters was getting switched. And now here we are talking about this damn Nintendo Switch switching their Switches will just cause the other companies to switch their Switches, who were all standing around like that one Sonic gif where he's licking his lips and looking like an absolute predator. And now we're gonna have games getting normalized for $80 now for the rest of time. Great. So Nintendo ended up cooking everybody, guys. They did it. They actually finally pulled the levers like Kronk, and now you're going to see every single studio and publisher go, well, Nintendo's making games $80, and I mean, if we sell it $70, that's not fair for Nintendo, right? We gotta be fair to PlayStation and Xbox and PC, otherwise we're undercutting Nintendo. So we gotta now raise the prices across the board, otherwise it's an industry problem. And then we're in a new meta where everything is more expensive, but are the games any better? Are the quality of these releases increasing with their prices? Of course not, you freaks. Now you're paying $20 more than you used to for games. Or sorry, $40 if you're Canadian more because 2K wanted more money for their dribble ball game they release every goddamn year. And now Nintendo's over here like, we want to play. Play with yourselves, Nintendo, okay? I don't want to play with you at all. You guys want $114 for what? A port of Final Fantasy VII Integrate. Are you out of your mind?
Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind?
You can buy the game for $53 Canadian right now on PSN with the DLC attached, and it will run better on PS5 than it ever will on Switch 2. It will also have way faster load times and much better resolution as well, but Nintendo went, but we would like to play! And they want you paying literally double the price to play it on their Switcheroo. You gotta be out of your mind if you pay this much for these sorts of ports, bro, and don't give me that, but Nintendo games look great. Dude, look at Mario Kart's recent graphics of the newest game to even BioShock Infinite. That came out in 2012 for God's sakes. 13 years ago, and it completely cooks Nintendo's latest racer game graphically in every way. But I can already hear them. I can hear the Nintendo fans. They're crawling up my legs like Kratos at the end of God of War 2 right now. I know they are. But Mario Kart isn't meant to be about graphics, it's all about gameplay. They've been selling you the same damn game every single time they announce a new console. Use your brains, people. Nintendo knows that their fans are so die-hard loyal, they will do mental gymnastics through any Hooper argument to justify paying up the wazoo for the latest Nintendo slop no matter what. Oh, you gotta be kidding me, bro. Look at this. Nintendo has a demo. A freaking demo, guys. It's called the Nintendo Switch 2 Welcome Tour. Great name. Alright, here it is on screen. You're seeing this riveting game in action right now. Oh wow, so they got a demo at release where you can get to know all the cool little functions of the Switch 2 in this little game at release. Well, that's nice. Psych. You gotta pay money to play this demo. It's not even free, dude.
You can't keep getting away with it!
As of right now, I have no idea what this thing costs, but anything beyond $1 is an actual slap in the face of Nintendo fans worldwide. When PlayStation 5 launched, you had that Astrobot game that was built into the console so you could get familiarized with how the PS5 ran and what it could do and so on. Sony was at least smart enough to not force anyone to pay extra for that Astrobot demo because it's a demo, dude. So you're telling me, let me get this straight, alright? Digital games will be $80 American or $110 Canadian, which is obscene already. I nod my head thinking about that. Then it's $90 American for physical games. Oh, and by the way, you also need to pay extra if you want to upgrade the games you own on your Switch already to become Switch 2 versions. Oh, did I forget to mention that those cartridges you buy physically for Switch 2 games, guess what? There's no game on the cartridge. Yeah, you heard that one right. The cartridge is just a physical piece of plastic you insert to tell your Switch to download the game digitally. So you're paying $10 extra for a small bing bong plastic insert that doesn't even have the game on it in the first place. And the system is region locked, and the Japanese version is cheaper because it has one language when previous consoles had every language supported at launch, or at the very least they had a bunch and then they updated with more languages as time went on. This is egregious. Anyone defending any of these practices is an insane person, and I guarantee you if Nintendo forced Nintendo fans to pay money every time they had to charge their Switch 2 to full battery, you would still have Nintendo fans out here unironically meat-riding Nintendo Schmeat saying, actually, this is okay, because, you know, electricity is expensive and Nintendo needs to keep the... Shut up. Just shut up. Shut up. Listen, I understand being loyal to brands, alright? I get it to a certain degree. But you have to admit when enough is clearly enough. Nintendo is fleecing you guys like sheep when it's time for harvest. This doesn't even include the GameCube stuff they want to add at launch. And how there's a GameCube controller they've made to play those games too, which you already know that controller will be hella expensive too, my god. So by the time it's all said and done, you're looking at hundreds upon hundreds of dollars for everything that the Switch offers at launch, if you want to get the most out of it. And the sad part is that we know when it releases, regardless, it will sell like hotcakes. People will be so hyped their brains will stop working. And they will excuse anything and everything that Nintendo has done here because my childhood, and they need to get the latest Nintendo hardware. But luckily for Nintendo, there is hordes of loyalists out here who will sacrifice their firstborns if Nintendo asks them to do it, and they will sell their kidneys to buy this damn thing at release. And knowing Nintendo, like they've done every single other time, they on purpose will make less consoles than there is demand to create false senses of units running out, just so that the Nintendo hopeful will scream even more autistically when more units do become available. And then you got the CEO or search engine optimization going off the charts here with people tweeting and yelling and making videos. And yeah, Nintendo, they are going to make bank with this console. But here's the thing, and it's kind of the point of the video, which is that with Nintendo inevitably breaking every record like they always do, and I'm fully aware, even me doing this video, people will still buy it anyways, I just hope people realize the ramifications of what they're doing and enabling here. We are now going to enter the $80 American per game meta. These games aren't even on the discs anymore either, which in turn makes me believe that Nintendo is also doing this because they want to phase out most of their physical retail partners too. Because if nobody buys the games physically but only on the online version, well, then Nintendo can bank 100% of the profits instead of having to split the profits with retailers when people buy their games from them instead. This is all being done to inevitably turn the gaming market into both a place where everything becomes digital across the board, where these companies reap the profits per unit sold more than ever before, and they can, under any circumstances, limit or ban your account if they want to. And at that point with the Switch 2, even if you own the games physically, you still can't play them anyway since they're actually digital. We're truly moving towards the whole you will own nothing and be happy future pretty much. And with this completely anti-consumer move on Nintendo's part will trickle down and force Sony, Steam, and more to also follow suit. But like I said, these games are already too expensive for what they're offering, and as we've seen, the increasing in prices does not actually equate to more superior products. You'll just be paying more money simply because the people who control these digital and physical storefronts are willing it into existence. And by supporting these business practices, you're going to make it worse for everyone. Maybe in a few years, Steam's player base will be 99% just playing older games. And at this point, with how things are going, can you honestly even blame them? Because I can't. Why the hell would you play most games new now if they're doing this? Oh my god, just imagine what Rockstar ends up doing with Grand Theft Auto 6 when that releases, man. What if they end up charging $90 or God forbid $100 American for the base version? And we all know, even if they did do that, it would still break $1 billion in sales under 24 hours regardless. But in a few years' time, when the next Call of Duty slop releases and it's $100 American, don't get mad at anyone but the Nintendo fans, who willed this nonsense into existence by voting with their wallets as a signal to the greater wide industry that it was totally fine to charge more despite quality dropping. This is so disappointing, man. 100 American is $143 Canadian, dude. Imagine almost paying that much for a single game with no DLC or expansions included. You're just paying that to be given the right to play the damn game day one physically. We're heading towards an industry crash, aren't we? Well, I guess circle back to this video in a year or two's time when the inevitable happens and we're all paying through the nose, I guess. $80 American for ports of games that run and play better on already available consoles and platforms is crazy to me. But that's Nintendo fans for you. They'll buy anything as long as Daddy Nintendo is selling it to them. Maybe Nintendo can start charging players per the hour they play or how much they press the buttons next. I'm sure some Nintendo fans would still protect them. Anyway, I'm done. I'm sad, dude. Thank you for watching if you got this far. Subscribe if you want more unhinged takes on video games. And I'll see you in the next video where inevitably stuff will hit the fan like it always does, and I'll see you in the next one.